Hello, welcome to my review for the debut album from 7th Jet Balloon. It's called 7th Jet Balloon, it's self-titled, and the band is made up of two members. The guitarist is named Shun, and he also sings as well. And the drummer is, I'm not quite sure what he's named. He goes by the letters SSM, so his name is maybe Sim, but that's all I could find. So last year, this band came out with an EP called Pleasant Sadness and ... And it was this fantastic punk, just aggressive, almost math rocky, for sure Mid-West Emo sort of EP with some really standout tracks on it. There were two in particular. There is one called This Is a Pen, and the other I wrote down because it is an acronym maybe, and it is MGDYRKRNI. Not sure what that means, but that's probably my favorite song in their whole discography. It just got fantastic energy, and I was really hoping that whatever they come out with next would be able to match that. And luckily, they did succeed in that. So one interesting thing about this band is that they are definitely die-hard American Midwest emo fans. You can hear all sorts of influences on their music, and if you know anything about Midwest emo or math rock, you would know that looking at the cover for this album, which I'll probably have right here, it's very obviously inspired by the, I believe, 2007 album by Tiger's Jaw, because it's literally on his shirt. And not just that, the actual album cover is trying to emulate the album cover for that album as well. So you can already tell from the cover that these guys are paying homage. Shun sings almost primarily in English. And I say almost primarily because I think he's always singing in English. However, he is almost unintelligible most of the time. I think it's a mix of, he has a very heavy Japanese accent. His English might just not be very good. And also the mixing is sort of weird in that you really can't hear what he's saying just because of how loud all of the instruments are. And fourthly, the way he sings, which is more like screaming kind of goes throughout every song, you really just can't make out what the words are, whichever language he's actually using. But I'm almost certain it's always English, but I really can't tell. I feel like if you're a fan of bands like maybe Melt Banana or Toe, you're kind of already used to a Japanese singer singing in English, but just because of the stylings of their music, you can't really hear what they're saying. And although they're like sometimes saying some like really interesting lyrics and phrases, it doesn't really matter just because the vibe of the song is just so strong with those unintelligible lines that they are singing or saying. So one of my favorite things about this album is you can tell that the duo are just really having a lot of fun. You can hear that in the vocals and the music they're making, and you can also tell just from the song names themselves as well. So for example, some of the song names on this album are I'm Yamcha, Be Always Unrequited, I'm the Worst, You're the Worst, So Fuck, Very, Very Sad, in all caps, There's an End, So the World is Beautiful, but ... And the titles are the way they are just to kind of introduce you to what their perspective is, that this is just fun music, and that's just what they're trying to come out with. So they're not trying to really like make like any kind of concept album. They're not trying to make any album about real world problems. It's just, we're just gonna yell and we're just gonna make it sound as good as we can, which again, they totally succeed at. And with that said too, I'm just so impressed at the level of songwriting that just these two musicians are able to actually accomplish. There's no bassist, there's no backup guitarist, it's just a drummer and the guitarist, but somehow they make enough music to almost trick you into thinking there's 2 or 3 more members in the band. It is just fantastic, and just hats off to them for being able to still make full sounding arrangements in each of their songs. So kind of like I mentioned earlier, their stylings are definitely tuned towards more punk, Midwest emo, and math rock. So for instance, they have one song called Nice Road, and that to me sounds very much like the more punky alternative rock stylings of Hinokote Koku from their final album Time Lapse. And because I like that album a lot, I was really into that song. Similarly, the song I'm Yamcha sounds a lot like the Japanese band Anorak. And then some songs such as Fuck Summer and Very, Very Sad have these very classic American Midwest emo sounding just guitar riffs and intros and outros that are just very evocative of like that specific genre. So 2 songs on the album I really want to cover are called WW Ape WW and A Gloomy Spring. They're kind of 2 parts of the same song. The Ape song is more like an intro to Gloomy Spring. These 2 songs just really get you invested in like the energy. and I would love to see these guys play live at a live house in Japan. I think the outro of this song is particularly fantastic. I just love how the guitars sound. With that said, I think Shun is definitely going places. Not to knock the other guy, SSM, because he has this like almost power metal vibe to the way he plays, and that just works really well with the sound of Shun's melodies and everything. I just think they are a perfectly weird match made in heaven, and that's why I've been enjoying their music as much as I have. This song in particular really reminds me of something made by like Number Girl, who was a very popular punk band in Japan in early to late 2000s that kind of went away for a while, kind of came back. And with that said too, 7 Jet Ballon sure has some of that wild 2000s rock aesthetic to them as well. I don't really have anything negative to say about the band. There is no song that I hate or despise or would particularly want off of the album. My only like very specific complaints, I suppose, are that the album is very samey. It's a very short album. Almost every song kind of sounds alike, which is fine. I would have really liked just kind of some more mix-up here or there. And also just because their sound is very derivative of a lot of other bands, there's nothing quite unique that makes them stand out. I did talk about the power metal-esque sound of the drummer, and I do really like Shun's vocals, but still that's not really enough to set them apart from their contemporaries, at least at this stage. On the other hand though, there's nothing wrong with being influenced by other bands, and at the very least, the duo did go into this album knowing, hey, we want to make an album that sounds like this, and in that way they definitely succeeded. So another complaint I would have is that the mixing is kind of bad, but I'm gonna give them as many passes as they need for this at the current time, just because they've got 700 monthly listeners on Spotify. I doubt their budget for recording this album was very large, so I don't really expect them to have professional, engineering and mixing and mastering. I'm just happy with what we have here, but I do have to point it out that the mixing just isn't great. But because they are a punk band, generally shitty mixing comes with the territory. So again, it's a complaint, but I'm not holding it against them like in the slightest. And again, I would just love to comment on just the really fun, high, intense energy of this album. It really gets me pumped every time I hear it, and it just gets me hyped for whenever I'm in the car and I'm on my way to like Trader Joe's or something. I'm like, yeah, I've got the energy. I'm ready to go buy some salad and some salad dressing and some eggs. Let's go do this. So ultimately, I would rate this album a 7 out of 10. It's a fantastic start. There is some room for improvement, which I think they will for sure improve on, and I would love to see them get a bassist, because I think that would just go crazy. Very good, short album. I hope to hear more from the band, and all the best to them. I think this album rocks. That's my review of the self-titled album from 7 Jet Ballon. So I have actually had this on my radar for a while, and I figure I've been reviewing so much Japanese pop lately, I thought I'd kind of, go in another direction for the next little while. So yeah, thank you for watching. I think I might even have maybe one video right here to recommend that you can watch if you're so interested. It's going to be the Tom Tom video, which is technically the first video I made in my review series. This album is awesome. It's not so much punk, but it is very fun. It's neo soul. It's super cool. I definitely recommend you check it out. So thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.